Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of The Health Show. My name is Siobhan Guthrie and thank you to everybody who is appearing live. We've had continuous Facebook Live issues with rescheduling, tried very much to find out what's going on with Facebook and no one's really been able to tell us. So anyway, this is about sugar, diabetes, insulin, stress, all of those things and how to protect your health. So it's been a bit of a challenge today, but hopefully you are able to hear us and you're joining us live or watching the replay. So first of all, I wanted to kind of just give you a few announcements because there's been so much going on over the last month or so, and we had our health roadshow about a month ago now. It seems a very short time ago, but we had an amazing week where we travelled up and around the country and had a great time sharing with others about kinesiology and how they could enhance their own health using very simple methods, and of course introduce people to our MCPE. So hopefully you can see all of that okay on Facebook Live. We've turned my phone around so that you can see everything properly, and of course you can see it properly on our normal broadcast. So I wanted to give you an update on our Health Roadshow. We had some prize winners, and those were announced the other day. And so we had, these are from our we have lots of different sponsors who contributed to the success of the roadshow. And we had some big prize winners, some big prizes to give to 3 winners. And so we had a night's B&B in we had a B&B in Fitzgerald Woodlands Hotel in Adair, County Limerick, and the prize winner on that is Leonie Hegarty, who attended our Tuam event. We also had a grand prize, which was the Restore Connection Retreat. That's in Loughlana up the road here in Castlebar, and that was won by Jerry Malone, who came to our Fermoy event. And then we had a Facebook competition. And the winner of that, the prize was a one night's B&B for 2 people in the Hibernian Hotel in Mallow, County Cork, and the winner of that was Linda Smith. I believe she also came to a talk in New Ross, was it?
She's in a talk in New Ross.
She was at our New Ross event as well. So congratulations to all 3 of those prize winners. And you know, we obviously had door prizes and we had spot prizes on the night as well. So there was taster events that are happening all around the country this week. And this week we have Galway and Waterford tomorrow night, and we have Clonakilty in Cork on Saturday, and then we have Donegal and Gorey coming up as well in early September. So check the website for those. And those taster events are a perfect opportunity if you are suffering from stuff that we're going to be talking about today, which is around tiredness and feeling stressed and all that sort of stuff. Then our taster events are a great way to experience how muscle testing feels, learn a muscle tester to yourself, and to find out some, we show you how to do food testing, etc., etc. So there's loads of things that are beneficial by coming to the taster events, and you get to meet our course leaders, and you get your hands dirty, and you get a feel for what it is we do. So those are coming up, as I said, this week and in the next few weeks as well. So check the website for if you want to attend those. It's €15. It's money well worth spent, and it really help you to get your health kick-started. Tonight I have a presentation for any physiotherapists out there. Some of you may have already registered if you're a physiotherapist, a stressed physiotherapist, and you're looking to make a difference to your clients in a non-structural way. Obviously you've got the structural side covered, but when you're seeing clients every half an hour and getting more and more stressed, a little time for yourself, then we're going to be sharing Margaret's story. Margaret is a physiotherapist whose clinic has really changed over the last, even from a year ago, and she is seeing maybe half the number of physiotherapy clients, and more people are requesting systematic kinesiology because they know that there's some other things that are contributing to their structural type problems, that maybe it's diet related or nutrition in some way, or even stress related. And so we are doing a special presentation for physiotherapists later today, at 7 o'clock. So a busy time here at Kinesiology Zone. For those of you who are graduates, I know some of you registered to attend the call. We have a postgraduate one-day workshop on Sunday the 3rd of September, and that will also be really all about tiredness. And so obviously that's what we're talking about here today, is one aspect of it, but it's a complicated thing to track down, because sometimes it can be, yes, it can be associated with glucose and the Krebs cycle, which we'll be talking about today, but it can also be toxin related, and so Alison Hassel-Smith is coming over from Metabolics to cover a one-day postgraduate workshop. So people who have completed the diploma, or even just first year, they're a certified practitioner, open to anybody with other kinesiologies as well. All our balanced health courses are starting soon, and we have our class of 2017 graduation taking place on Saturday the 2nd of September, and so we wish them all the success that they all truly deserve in the coming years of their busy kinesiology practice. And so we've just been we've been listening to some of their research that they've done in the past 6 months or so, and their results have been outstanding. And then finally, before we get onto the call today, is our phone line is down, so apologies for that if anybody's been trying to call us. We've been trying to fix it on our side, but the provider needs us to do some pre-checks, and it's been a little bit frustrating. So email is the best way to get in touch with us, which is info@kinesiologyzone.com. Okay, here we go. So today, episode 11 is all about sugar, diabetes, insulin, and really about protecting your health. And it is a complicated topic, and so I hope to be able to bring just a little bit of information, a bit of clarity, and some direction as to where you could be going in terms of sugar handling. Sugar absolutely makes us feel good in the short term, and so when we are feeling low in energy, carbohydrates are often what we love to consume because it gives us quite an immediate high. But as soon as you have a sugar high, over the coming hours, you can get very much a sugar low, and that creates this craving cycle that is hard to get a handle on. So if you feel if you're feeling tired all the time, or you're feeling overexcited or stressed or hungry all the time, those are things that can be a symptom of low blood sugar or rocketing sugar levels. If you're prone to infection, and particularly teeth or gum disease can be a factor. It is a significant high insulin or low sugar issues, let's just say, is a significant health problem because it's associated with obesity, heart problems, polycystic ovary syndrome, cancer, and many other serious conditions like diabetes. So I suppose the key to understanding is how do we generate or make energy in the body, and what generates energy? And often we have what's called our glucose pathway, which I'm going to very quickly show you a diagram of how we test our energy pathways. Hopefully you can see that a little bit. We're not going to go through much of that, but the body has a lot of complicated systems and processes that we eat something and the body has to work out what to do with it. And it all depends on what's in the food that the body goes, okay, do I need some HCl to break down protein? Do I need, what's in the food that we're eating? And often we eat things far too quickly for the body to even recognize what has come into the system. But our glucose pathway is really for primarily burning glucose, which we get from carbohydrates, and less so from protein and fats. But carbohydrates will give us the the fastest buzz, if you like. Other ways to generate energy is through exercise and getting the body moving in any way, getting active in any way is going to, it doesn't have to be going for the burn as such. But all of the food that we eat, the things that we consume, has to be treated by the body in some way. And so in our diet, we have our essential food groups, if you like. We've got proteins, which are essential. There's between 8 and 11 amino acids that have to come from in our diet that we cannot generate ourselves. There are fats, there are essential fats that we need, which essential means that they have to come from our diet. And if we're not being very proactive in thinking about what we're eating, then it's actually really easy to lose some of those essential nutrients. So the three main food groups that provide us with our essential nutrients, we're looking at protein, fats, and carbohydrates. But even still, carbohydrates more so aren't necessarily an essential food group. We can get our energy from protein and fats, but we tend to love the carbohydrates. And we've been such a phobic, there has been such a phobia around fats that, you know, most people have a low-fat diet, which often means that we eliminate fats altogether. And even foods that are low in fat, like, you know, even like yogurt and things like that, you'll see a wide range of low-fat options. You know, yogurt is a pretty low-fat food anyway, but, you know, when I go to the supermarket, I like to get the full-fat yogurt, and there's one variety pretty much. The rest are all low-fat, usually added in loads of sugar in it to make it tasty, and of course that raises our carbohydrate level. So proteins, let's go to proteins first. Protein is food such as meat and fish. You've got nuts and eggs, and the body breaks all of those down into different amino acids, and they are essential. We must derive them from our diet. And there's lots of ways in which you can get protein in your diet. There's protein shakes as well for those who like to go down that route. But protein can help you to feel, you know, fuller. Then there's fats, which can help you to feel fuller for longer. And then we mentioned carbohydrates. They don't tend to fill us up at all, and we can consume a huge amount of those in a very short period of time. And yet they're not necessarily really providing us with the essential nutrients that we need. Some foods contain protein, also contain fats and carbohydrates. And so if you're looking at maybe reducing your carbohydrate level, then it's important to know kind of what those foods are. But in terms of protein, seafood is a good source of protein because it is naturally low in carbohydrate. Often you'll say, oh, and it's also low in fat, but we really want to choose oily fish because we need maybe 3 or 4 portions of oily fish a week to ensure that we get those essential fats into our diet. And so seafood is a good source of protein if you choose to eat fish. Dark meat, poultry will often have excellent protein, but it's also a little bit higher in fat. And so remember, we're talking about being able to feel fuller for longer. So the foods that have both protein and fat in them naturally will do that. We've got our milk, cheese, and yogurt, and for some people they can't really tolerate dairy. But for everyone who can, then these do contain protein, but they also contain carbohydrates. And so low fat, as I said, it's not necessary to do low fat, because we don't need to be so phobic about fat. Eggs are great. Probably the less expensive or the least expensive form of protein available, and it also contains fat, and the yolk has everything beneficial in there. Beans, getting more into the kind of more options around if you're not a meat eater, so beans, protein and fiber and carbohydrate in there too. So if you're looking at reducing your carbohydrate level, then you've got to be cautious of beans. Beef is also an excellent source of zinc and iron and B12, which are all, again, essential part of our nutrition. So if we come to fats, we have butter, which is both good and tasty and natural and very low processed. In Ireland, we're very lucky to have Kerrygold as our kind of main export. I know in America that they love the grass-fed butter, and we can get it here very easily. So butter, avocado is also a great way to replace, like I love avocado on a sandwich. You can not necessarily have to have butter. It gives it a nice texture, but avocado has a couple of carbohydrates in it too, so again, that's something to consider. You can get fats in seeds and oils, and omega-3, 6, and 9, which are essential oils. Udo's oil is a great brand for working being specifically targeting adding oils into your diet. Udo is always lovely on a salad with a bit of lemon in it too. And then of course our oily fish. So so that's kind of like our macronutrients, our proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. And protein and fat is our essential nutrients, and so very, very important that we make sure, because we've been so phobic about fats for so long. You know, it's often deemed, something is deemed healthy. I was reading a magazine the other day when they had healthy brownies, and because it was low fat and they were gluten free. But yeah, the amount of sugar that was contained in the recipe was just like, how is this considered healthy? So we have to be very careful about what we see as being labeled as healthy when we're out shopping. And I was talking to my students the other day about, you know, I wanted to buy some slices of chicken. And because I do value health, and I looked over and I looked at the label, and I saw that there was probably like dextrose, anything with an OSE at the end is usually a sugar. Dextrose, maltose, lactose, all of these sugars were like probably 10, 15 ingredients, and all I wanted to buy was chicken. So it's like, put it back on the shelf, you know, go and buy some chicken that is either already roasted for you in Super Value, in Tesco, they do all of that, and so, or make it yourself. But convenience often means that there's going to be a long list of products or other ingredients alongside the ingredients that you want to buy. Okay, so so just having a look at my notes here. So when it comes, I'm going to put some stuff up here eventually, but how are we doing on time? Okay, all right. So it is a big topic, and it's a emotive topic too. And when we are feeling low, then often we will go to carbohydrates as comfort food, because it does give us a little bit of a boost. It makes us feel good. When we're under stress too, that can release glucose from the system, the stored system of glycogen, and so it can be a difficult cycle to get off. But once we understand that, you know, glucose is the way that we process our energy, we can be a little bit more specific about how we're going to what choices we're going to make in terms of the foods that we eat. But we need to know a little bit more about insulin, and insulin is how, you know, the blood sugar level in the body is really, really important. Blood sugar level in our blood is controlled by different mechanisms. But when you consume glucose and it goes through this glucose pathway and it pumps out, the purpose of how to get it into the cell is using a hormone called insulin. And so the hormone insulin reduces blood glucose in your blood by pushing it into the cells that use it or burn it to make ATP, our little pockets of energy. So these are all these ATPs coming out here at the side of our chart. And if you don't use up all your ATP, then the glucose left over will be stored as fat. So it's like it can't stay in the blood. And so this is very important, because if you're storing it as fat, then that's how it contributes to diabetes. To obesity. So if your blood insulin levels have been high for years, then the cells of the body can start to ignore it, and it's something that therefore it becomes less effective at doing this important job. And so while it's doing that, we have to be careful, because you know, insulin resistance is a term maybe that you've heard of before, and you know, the risks of developing insulin resistance. You know, sometimes it's because we're eating too many carbs, like the body is producing all this insulin, and you know, it's like picking at a scab. You know, it never has a chance to kind of come down a little bit, and so you're at risk of high insulin or insulin sensitivity or insulin resistance if you eat too many carbs and or eat over processed foods, have a sedentary lifestyle, sitting in front of a computer in an office all day, commuting to work in the car for an hour or so. Being overweight can be a risk or a symptom, but you don't have to be insulin resistant you can be insulin resistant without being overweight. So it's not necessarily the two go hand in hand. Stress, raising your cortisol, which helps to release, and adrenaline, which helps to release stored glucose. If you're lacking in nutrients, chromium. I've got some samples here. So chromium here is great at helping to balance blood sugar. Magnesium is also really important. I don't know if you can see those, but anyway, magnesium, chromium, and there's another chromium here, just a couple of brands that I use, and zinc can also be helpful as well. So there's chromium helps to balance blood sugar. Magnesium is very much involved in this glucose pathway as well, and of course essential fats can play a role too in high insulin. So how you can help to reduce excess insulin if you feel that it is something that has maybe been a part of your life for a while, is to take some good antioxidants. This helps to defend the cell against oxidative stress, which can play a role then in reversing insulin resistance. And get active, like even as much as going for a quick 10-15 minute walk each day, counting your steps if you have a Fitbit or something. Zinc I mentioned, and also cinnamon has a beneficial effect on excess insulin and balancing blood sugar. So those are all good things to consider. The other thing is, oily fish, remember I mentioned 2 to 4 times a week. If you're a vegetarian or a vegan, then you'll likely need to take an omega-3 supplement, such as maybe linseed oil. And so, again, being very, very focused at thinking about how can I introduce more fats into my diet, at the same time reducing my carbohydrate levels. And we need to look at what are carbohydrates. They're anything from, pure sugar, but also to anything such as you got your root vegetables. Those can, your parsnips and carrots. Carrots are always served in Ireland with a meal. Doing broccoli and carrots. Broccoli is grand. Carrots are a bit more higher in sugar content. Of course, all our breads and flours and coatings around things so any of the grains are carbohydrates, along with potatoes, etc., etc. So it's really easy to get carbohydrates into our diet, and it's something that, yes, fruits and vegetables are very, very important. But fruits, we want to be careful. If you are insulin resistant, if you have genetic disposition to diabetes, if you're struggling with your energy levels, it's very easy to gorge on, what's deemed to be a more healthy side of things, which absolutely it is. Antioxidants are found in vegetables and fruit, but we've got to be careful about how much we veer on the side of fruit rather than vegetables, and then just being selective if we're trying to reduce the number of carbohydrates and increase the number of fats that we have. We will feel fuller for longer, so don't be worried about feeling hungry. Other healthy recommendations would be to have protein and some fat in there for breakfast. And so our traditional breakfasts are carbohydrate focused, whether they're a breakfast cereal or toast with jam. We tend to veer to the side of the Danish and the muffins and things like that. Whereas if we go for a cooked breakfast, maybe the traditional fry up or maybe the grill is a more healthy option if we're looking at balancing our blood sugars. So protein and fats is a good way to do that in the mornings. You feel fuller for longer, and then you at lunchtime the same thing, and then at dinner the same thing. And you shouldn't have to snack if you're getting the munchies or feeling that you need something. It's like really just reassess, did I have too many carbohydrates? Because I certainly find them very addictive too. So we have other healthy recommendations. Chew your food. It is really hard to eat fast if you are chewing. Chewing a lot will help, and it'll also help the body to know what's coming into your stomach and to be able to digest it properly. Don't skip meals. Some people who do suffer from tiredness or being hungry all the time, sometimes they just shut down their digestive system totally. And when we're stressed, we can sometimes not feel too hungry. Kind of one of those dichotomies. That's why it's not really it's not an easy topic to summarize, and I haven't really written anything up here at all, so I thought I was going to have time to do all that. Okay, let's put some here. So we've got chewing food. Nope, we need a better pen than that. Can you see we've got, okay, here we go. So chew your food. Reduce, or become, first of all, aware of how many carbohydrates you're eating. So that's your breads, your fruit, high GL vegetables. And we do recommend the GL diet as being an option to at least get started in thinking about what carbohydrates you might be eating, because it measures GL diet, or the glycemic load diet, measures the amount of carbohydrate in food. So as a good starting point, if you want to have a general plate of food, then you can see like how many carbohydrates you should be eating, protein and fats. The GL diet doesn't go too much into fats, but you then have so that's the GL diet. You also have what's called the paleo diet, which naturally takes out grains and modern foods. And then the one that I'm like kind of looking at myself at the moment is the ketogenic diet. And this is where it's very low carb. Paleo is low carb and GL is more balanced carb. But keto is very much a small amount of carbohydrates. It's a real learning curve in terms of how many foods that we eat that contain carbohydrates. So don't skip meals. And at the same time, eat when you're hungry. So just because it's 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock doesn't mean that if you're not hungry, reassess whether or not you're being forced to eat because of social norms, or whether, so it's like you just want to, it really depends on how full you're feeling from your previous meal. We tend to burn a lot of glucose when we're stressed. So yeah, it all depends on kind of what diet you're following. So again, remember, eat essential fats, and that one is, because we've been so fat phobic for so long, it is important that we aren't missing out on essential nutrients. Eat some vegetables with your lunch and dinner. Sometimes have a salad for breakfast. It's not something that we do normally in this culture, but there's no reason why we couldn't have a proper meal. If you are eating vegetables at lunch, dinner, then a good thing to do is to have some of that raw before you start the meal, so that it's got all the essential nutrients that will help digest the cooked vegetables. Avoid your artificial sweeteners. It keeps you really tasting things very high sweetness, and it will keep the cravings coming, and avoid alcohol as well. So, any questions before we finish up?
Yeah, we've got a couple of questions in here. Firstly, Dan Mulcahy wants to say hi. She met you at the Fermoy Roadshow.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so we have a question here from Mary. She's saying, how long before I notice a difference in my health?
Okay, so I absolutely know that if you follow any of these diets that help to reduce your carbohydrate level, there can be a little bit of a rebound. You can feel a bit tireder in the first few days, but within a couple of weeks, if not earlier, if you cut down the number of carbohydrates and you start to make sure you're getting your proper protein levels, you're starting to get maybe some of those essential fats. Maybe you're just going to add some Udo's oil into your diet with a bit of that raw vegetables over maybe some stir-fried vegetables and meats. Then within a week, and even if you were just to give it a go for 2 weeks, you took your chromium, your magnesium, some essential fats, absolutely you would feel a difference in a relatively short period of time.
Sheila's just looking for some good snack ideas.
Snack ideas. Well, I would absolutely go for the easy to snack on carbohydrates. The first thing that we want to go for. But if you are wanting to have chocolate, that's a magnesium deficiency is often related. So chocolate equals magnesium. So it might be a little hint that you need to have some magnesium supplement. But if you're going for on the protein fats side of things, we'll then have a look at, remember we talked about the beans, like hummus and things like that, with a low carbohydrate. If you need to have something like, I would often have an avocado as a bit of a snack. Well, if you start to get in control of your whole energy, and you're getting enough sleep and you're reducing your stress levels, I mean, this is our MCPE is like, we can't just look at blood sugar only from a chemical point of view, which is what we're doing today. But our stress levels can be associated with our stress, which remember raises blood sugar, can also be associated with our thoughts and how we perceive the world. And so we need to look at this side as well, the emotional, and there are some structural things that go on as well. In fact, I'm going to show you that now. So we have a muscle test that we test for testing blood sugar, which is along the latissimus dorsi muscle. It's the spleen pancreas organ. But we've also got, we mentioned about fats being involved. So we've got an anterior deltoid and we have pectoralis major sternal. So 3 of the muscles that we might use when we're assessing energy levels. And so the lymphatic reflex that I want to share with you today is between the on the left-hand side, between the 6th and 7th rib. And there's a little bit of a wider part there's a little hole between those 2 muscles, those 2 ribs. If you rub that, so you're working from the outside, you're rubbing, I don't know if you can see me on the Facebook Live, but rubbing between the 6th and 7th rib. If that feels a bit tender, then go for it. No harm in doing the right-hand side as well. But that will help to balance your pancreas that's involved in your insulin and blood sugar, and so that can be really helpful as well.
Yeah, we have one more question. Elaine here.
Yep.
She's saying she's insulin resistant and suffers from PCOS.
Yep.
Is there something additional I can do for the PCOS regarding weight? It's a battle for her.
Absolutely a battle, and I would pretty much recommend this ketogenic diet. Elaine, was it?
Yeah.
Have a look at that and see if by increasing your essential fats could make a huge difference, reducing your carbohydrates. I suppose the signs and symptoms of people who have elevated insulin is polycystic ovary syndrome is one of those things. High blood pressure, elevated triglycerides is another thing. Abdominal obesity, and then the other thing is swollen ankles. Insulin really works with the kidneys as well to hang on to sodium. It sort of instructs the body to hold on to sodium and water, and therefore, if you look puffy or you get acne or greasy skin or anything like that, or swollen ankles, or anywhere around the body, then that could also be a sign. So I would absolutely, good fats. You got your magnesium, your chromium. Cinnamon, you can add in your cinnamon into your, if you do have a breakfast cereal or something like oats or something that's more slowly processed carbohydrates, then you could add your cinnamon onto that, and that could really help too. But it's hard to give individual advice on, through this medium, but absolutely go to check with your systemic kinesiologist and see, is there some specific advice. Because food sensitivities are, remember, a portion of your stress, which is in the chemical side, but also the emotional side. If there's past traumas, if there's things that we can do to help clear some of those, then that will also be really beneficial too. Excellent. We are over the half hour. So what have we got a topic and the date for the next episode of the health show?
We do, yeah. We have started on Wednesday, the 20th of September.
So 20th of September, which is a Wednesday, and the topic
we'll be discussing with the back to school.
Oh, back to school.
Yeah.
Yes.
Children.
Back to school stuff. How can kinesiology help increase academic results? And it's been inspired by one of my diploma students, class of 2017. She did a fantastic presentation on how she was able to help kids who were sitting down to do exams, and how to kind of deal with that exam stress. So we just thought at the beginning of the school term it would be a great topic to cover, and I'm hoping that she might come on. I haven't asked her yet, so we'll see. But it was a great presentation, so I really hope that she will join us. And if not, I will be quoting her research. So I think that's everything. Hope you've learned something from today that was helpful. As we said, we love our carbohydrates. The low-fat diets have not worked. Otherwise, everyone would be skinny and happy with their weight. Low fat is not healthy, and so I encourage you to explore a little bit more about what how you can be very intentional about adding good fats to your diet. So unprocessed oils, anything that, like corn oil, has been solvent extracted. So you want to look at non-processed or in their raw state. So like olive oil, which you don't use for frying. Coconut oil is good, and butter is good, and then oily fish, maybe even up to 4 times a week, which is probably higher than most of us are doing. And so don't be so worried about fats. Absolutely, low carbohydrate is the way to go, but you can't do both. You can't do low carb and low fat, because otherwise I don't know what you're left with. Pretty tasteless anyway. Fat things are foods that contain that usually fill us for longer. They satiate us. They make us feel good. But we have been so phobic about it. Obviously, go in. Farm Nord is a company that we use, and they're available in all in a lot of health food shops and pharmacies. They are individually wrapped products, and so every tablet is as fresh as the first one, and so they're freely available in any good pharmacies. But you can pick up chromium and magnesium and your zinc and your essential fats pretty much everywhere. So thank you. This has been episode 11. Hopefully you have learned something. This is Siobhan Guthrie signing off, and thank you for joining us on Facebook Live and on our main recording, and I look forward to seeing you next month.